Alright, I just wanted to review some of the non-commutative time, frequency, mathematics, because I've been corresponding with someone who is claiming to have a PhD in music or musicology, and they're claiming, well, I asked them, well, where did you get your PhD and what was the title of your PhD thesis? And I asked them a second time because the first time I didn't get any response, and so they're claiming that they brought their music research to a math professor, and they consulted a math professor about Alain Connes and his music lecture, and they're claiming that Alain Connes is playing an equal tempered music scale on his keyboard, and therefore his non-commutative mathematics is only for the equal tempered scale. And so what I responded to was that if you actually really study Kant's, what he's clearly stating is that the discrete rational numbers are more dense than the irrational numbers in the spectrum as a continuum. And the reason they're more dense is because of a more fundamental time and speaks and frequency as spectrum before the creation of a geometric space. And so the discrete frequency is in the Pythagorean music is it grows exponentially, so that it is 3 to the 19th and then 2 to the 12th. And the reason this is the case is because you're taking the fifths and you're multiplying them, and then you're dividing them back into the same octave scale. And so that's why the scale is the 7 fifths, or the 19 is the 12 fifths, and then the 7 is for the dividing back into the same scale. So that's why it would be, otherwise it would be 3 halves to the 12 against 2 to the 7th. So it's the equivalent of 7 octaves against the 12 perfect fifths for the 12 notes. And so you add the 2's together to when you divide out the 2's, so that's why you get 2 to the 19th and then 3 to the 12th. and then it's the inverse for the logarithms as Pythagorean ratios. So it's 3 to the 1/19th and 2 to the 1/12th. And because they're exponentials, then that's why they're non-commutative, because when you reverse the direction of the exponential, then you get a different value. So normally it would be a times b equals b times a, but when you multiply 2 times 3/2, or 2 to the 3/2 is a different value than 3/2 squared. So that's why the exponentiation is non-commutative. So if you study Alain Connes, not only does he say that the discrete numbers as non-commutative fractions, rational fractions, are more dense, or as exponentiations are exponentials, they're more dense due to this inverse frequency, so that the time is now measured no longer due to wavelength, but to the inverse frequency of light. And so that's based on the spectral reading of light. I think that would be the absorption spectrum, because he talks about the difference between that it has to be the absorption spectrum, which would be the inverse frequency. That's then based on the Ritz-Rydberg law is then proven to be non-commutative, as first discovered by Heisenberg, and then his physics advisor Max Born realized that Heisenberg was using non-commutative matrices math. Heisenberg was using algebra, and then so Max Born converted it to the matrices math, and then it was Paul Dirac who realized the matrices math was from the Poisson bracket that E.T. Whittaker used in his Maxwell equations for electromagnetics as for the potential energy, so that the way the non-commutative matrices are converted is as a cross product of the diagonals of the matrices, and so the diagonals are non-commutative. And then you have to do this cross product to convert it back into the commutative math. And when you're using the matrices, you're using the imaginary frequency axis, and so the imaginary number is non-commutative because of the odd and even number of steps of algebraic steps in the process of the measurement of the with the velocity as the momentum based on the frequency. So I haven't really studied the Poisson bracket just because I'm not concerned about converting it back into the classical symmetric mathematics, because I know that from my study of the non-Western meditation from music, that the non-commutative resonance it amplifies up to the macro level, and this is what Pascual Gordon also argued in the 1930s. And because he was a anti-Semitic German Nazi, that therefore his non-commutative quantum biology science was not recognized by scientists. It's just now beginning to be acknowledged in the published papers. And quantum biology is still a brand new field of science. It's only like 15 years old as far as a self-declared discipline. And so when you study Eddie Oceans, he realized that the Taoist internal martial arts was based on this non-commutative training, and I had realized this on my own from studying the book Taoist Yoga, Alchemy, and Immortality. So Eddie Oceans, he does what's called the silk reel move in Tai Chi, and it's the exact same thing as what's called the Dirac dance in quantum mechanics, and that's what I learned in my quantum mechanics class to explain the non-local quantum entanglement. And so the non-local quantum entanglement that's instantaneous is due to this 720 degree rotation of the geometry as a non-commutative block sphere with the imaginary frequency axis as a vector with the real frequency axis at the same time, so that the time and the frequency of the X, Y, and I think they call it J, maybe, or the name of the imaginary axis. And when you combine those all together, that's what's called the spinner of the block sphere. So that that's why you can't measure the position and the frequency, the momentum at the same time, because what they call the non-commutative phase or the non-commutative time frequency requires this 720 degree rotation to return back to 0 as a symmetrical sphere measurement. But that's due to time being a linear operator based on the Fourier analysis, and this is what causes the quote-unquote measurement problem in quantum physics, so that the so-called collapse of the wave function is due to having to multiply the imaginary frequency axis based on the amplitude of the vectors. And so when you multiply the amplitudes, then that cancels out the non-commutative imaginary frequency, and so the non-commutative cross product of the matrices is then converted into a real number symmetric value for the probability of the wave creating a particle location or a momentum, or the spin, establishing what the spin is, or various other quantum measurements. So because it is based on non-Western meditation as listening, and therefore in quantum biology it is proven that we can listen faster than the Fourier uncertainty or the time frequency uncertainty, which is the fact that the more precise you have the frequency as momentum, then the less precise you have the time, so that it takes a longer time to measure a more precise frequency, and then vice versa. And so because we can listen faster than time frequency uncertainty, up to 10 times faster, and because it's proven that ultrasound resonates as a quantum coherence due to the metamaterials of the tubulin and microtubules in the neurons and in all the microtubules of the body, the collagen and all the cells, and so therefore we're able to then split water internally in our bodies to create virtual photons that we can then absorb. And so we're able to then absorb a reverse time and negative frequency relativistic quantum energy through this non-commutative macro scale listening process as a Brian Josephson junction that converts the symmetry breaking of space-time as the gravitational collapse of the quantum non-commutative non-locality into a voltage energy that self-amplifies up from the quantum non-locality. So I have all the new sources. I have a new version that I've uploaded to academia.edu as a latest rough draft version, and the editor's going over it, but he cannot see any of the images, and therefore you cannot see me in this video. So try understanding what I just said without any images, and that's what this video tried to explain. So thank you very much.